Kathi Roetter, welcome.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Kathi Roetter is the executive director of the Troy Chamber of Commerce, a position she's had for a while now. Kathi, tell us a little bit about yourself and the chamber.
Yes. So you said for a little bit of time I've been here at the chamber. So I will be celebrating 11 years in July with the chamber, a job I absolutely love because we get to celebrate our community every day and support our businesses and be a champion for Troy, Ohio, and the greater community. Like we like to say, a champion for Troy and Miami County.
Excellent. And how long's the chamber been doing the chamber thing?
We've been around almost 90 years.
Wow, 90 years. That is quite a long time. And you wear many hats as the chamber. You guys are kind of like the engine behind the Strawberry Festival. You have a number of events throughout the year, like the steak fry, and just ribbon cuttings and all of those things that I would imagine that make the role of executive director more like the what's the word I'm looking for? How about activity director of the cruise ship?
Sometimes, yes. I like that. We'll go with that.
One of the neat things, though, that the chamber has is the Leadership Troy program, which I think has been around for about 40 years. Is that?
Yeah, this is the 41st year.
41 years. So what was the impetus to start the program, if you know?
Well, my understanding is there were a group of citizens that were involved in the chamber that went to Cincinnati and learned of a program they had in Cincinnati that was to teach about the civic capacity of our community in an effort to build stronger leaders for our nonprofit community.
Okay, and so you've been kind of leading this part of the program for how many years?
Ooh, it's kind of been on and off. So I think I've done it. I think this might be my 6th or 7th year.
Okay. Yeah, because I went through the program back in 2017, and I think that was Corey's last year.
That might have been.
Or next to last.
Yeah.
And so if somebody goes through the Leadership Troy program, how long is it? What can they expect?
Well, it's a 9-month program. So it's one Wednesday a month from February through October. And each month there's a different subject area. So in January, we start with professional development and leadership skills. And we spend a little time, what I call complaining, because that's what it is. They talk a lot about what they don't like in Troy, but we also focus on what we do like in Troy. And the reason for that is so that people can share their thoughts. And then the hope is that along the way, they learn that maybe things are not exactly as they perceive them.
Okay.
And they learn a little bit because there's city and county government. We have a criminal justice day. So along the way, they learn about the leaders who are making the decisions in our community. The leaders have an opportunity to tell why. Sometimes we like that, sometimes we don't. But, just to have a better understanding, there's an education day, economic and community development day. And then in October now, we kind of do a day that's a mix of anything that we've missed. And then there's also what I call next steps. Because we want people to learn about our community, but really we want them to get engaged when they graduate from the program. And so in November, we have a nonprofit expo, and we ask the nonprofits to come with what board opportunities do you have? What volunteer opportunities do you have? And maybe do you just need donations? Because there's people who want to serve in a board capacity, people who want to volunteer, and there's people who just want to write a check. And we like all three.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we see that quite a bit in the nonprofit sector. Is it hard to get participants into the program, and where do these participants usually come from vocationally?
It is not hard to get people in the program. We actually this year had, I think we have 10 or 12 on the wait list for next year that we had to turn away this year. This year's class has 27, which is the largest class ever. which came off of 25, which was the largest class before that. So right now we just have a lot of interest in the program, which is exciting because that means people want to get involved in our community. And where do they come from? They come from all walks of life. So we currently have someone in the class that is a sole entrepreneur. We have that is close to retirement, but got involved in several local nonprofits and wants to be more involved. We have representation from our largest employers, the hospital, Clopay, and everywhere in between. And then we always have representation from nonprofits as well.
Okay. What do you think it says about the program now that it's growing, or does that say anything about the community? Because I think when I went through it, there was my 16, 18, something like that. So, I mean, obviously the number's growing. You've got a wait list of 12 people. It's like, holy cow. I mean, there must be some type of spark that's getting people interested in local affairs. What do you think's in the water?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wish I really knew that. I think that the program's just such a great behind the scenes tour of Troy, and you get access to those local leaders. And you get tours of places that people don't get to go in. You get to go in a Clopay, or you might get to do the tour at ConAgra, and you get to sit with the mayor and city council members or the commissioners. And so I think what's happened is just this word of mouth. People love the program, and they just keep telling people. And so more and more people are signing up.
Excellent. And, word of mouth is usually the best referral for any endeavor you get into. That is awesome. So has the program changed over the years in terms of the offerings that you go through with Leadership Troy, and what changes have been made?
It has changed. So years ago, including like I went through in 2013, it used to have a component where you were given an option to either serve on a board in an internship capacity, do a project with other people in the class, or write a research paper. And over the years that I've been involved, what we found is that in particular with the nonprofit component, is that we were not providing everyone with similar experiences on the nonprofit. So we had some interns on nonprofits that were being treated as a board member and expectations of a board member. So heavily involved in fundraising and writing checks, having to be part of a committee running a fundraising event. And then we had others that were lucky to even get in the boardroom to understand and be part of the board process, and really everything in between. And so we were starting to get some negative feedback on that. And then with nonprofits too, some nonprofits meet 4 times a year, some meet every month. And so really different experiences. And what we were also finding is that many of our participants were already serving on nonprofit boards. And so they weren't finding the value in that. And so that's why we changed. And now we have this expo at the end so that the participants can still connect to the nonprofits. And then with that, hopefully they're connecting. And if not, we're in a role now where we can play matchmaker. We recently started and still kind of working on it, but we recently started a volunteer job board. Similar to the job board we have for for-profit businesses. So the nonprofits can go on and they can post anything they're looking for, whether it's volunteers or specific board members and the skill sets that they're looking for. And so really anyone in the community, but in particular our alumni, can go out and look there to make a match, or we can look through our alumni database now and help nonprofits to make the match that they're looking for too.
Yeah, because I mean, if there's one thing that we've seen in the community, we've seen a lot of nonprofits come on board in the last 10 to 15 years. and people are, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like people are busier now than they've ever been. And you don't see that desire from folks to actually serve on boards. And so, it's high demand, low supply.
Yes.
Will the two ever meet? And so there's the chamber there to help kind of fill that gap, which I think a lot of people would be interested in knowing about, because it's not something that I think most people consider a main responsibility, or even a small responsibility of what a typical chamber of commerce does. And so with that, with all of the activity, well, the one question I had was, is there still a component in which participants have to do some type of outside of the classroom activity? Do they still do a project? Do they still do a paper? And what does that look like?
So we do a book study now. So about 4 years ago, we started adding a servant leadership component. And so we've done some different books. And so that's part of their outside work. And then again, probably about 4 years ago, the group that graduated that year started a program called Serve Troy, and which actually was because they met with Michael Ham, a graduate of the program. And Michael shared with them that really, sometimes we think of leadership as this really big thing, and that we have to do big things. We have to be an elected official, or you have to be in a director role, and that anyone can be a leader. And sometimes it's the small things in your community that make a big difference. And so that class started Serve Troy Day, with the whole idea of getting alumni to come out and do different projects for nonprofits, clean up the downtown, paint a building, whatever that might be, but get together and serve our community and make an impact.
Excellent. And so when we think about the program or the activities that you guys do once a month, is there one activity or a couple activities in which the minds of your participants are just absolutely blown? Like something that just happened, or an experience that they're just like, holy cow, I had absolutely no idea this happens in our community.
Well, we just came off Criminal Justice Day, and I would say that is always an impactful day. Now that both the sheriff's department and the police department have cameras, so now they get to actually watch video of a traffic stop that many times has gone wrong. So to see how that works and to watch our police officers in action, that's always been impactful. Of course, they get to go to the jail and eat jail food.
Yeah, the prison loaf or whatever it was. Yeah.
It's actually much better than when I went through. I tell everyone, the food is not bad. It's just not seasoned. It's kind of blah. And then, that's the day that we typically end with the county prosecutor, and they will walk us through, and victim witness, and they will walk us through a case that has recently happened in Miami County from start to finish, from the time the sheriff's department gets on scene to victim witness being involved in the prosecution. And that's just always really impactful as well.
Okay.
Most impactful, but I would say, I think people walk away from each day with a wow, I didn't know that. Whether it's the water treatment plant and understanding the quality of the water that we drink, or going to our schools and understanding, what the teachers are putting into and the growth that we're seeing in students. It's all good.
Yeah. And, I remember, just a few weeks ago, we talked to Sherry Foster and how she went, and I think she's in the program now.
This class.
She had gone through the poverty simulation and was just her mind was completely blown by that. Holy cow, these things happen in our community.
Yeah, I would say that's another thing that we've added to the program. I think we've done that 4 or 5 years, and it just reminds people that there's other people in this community that maybe sometimes we don't interact with and we're not aware of. And I think it's that we time that a little earlier in the year, so that as we go to the different things like criminal justice or the education system, you can look at things with a different lens.
Yeah. Very cool. You also have a team leadership component. How long has that been around, and what do you do with that?
I think that one's
probably about 20 years.
Yeah, 25 years maybe.
Okay, maybe.
So that actually was a project of a Leadership Troy class.
Okay.
They loved Leadership Troy so much, and they felt like there was a need for teens to have a similar program. And so what we do is the week after the Strawberry Festival, because nobody's tired in our office, we do a teen program, and we try to take the 9-month program and cram it into 5 days and touch as many of those components that the adults do as well.
And are you able to get it all in? Because I mean, it's like, holy cow.
We get a lot of it in. We get a lot of it in. It's not as in depth. The teens aren't as interested sometimes in some of the things that we're talking about. But what the hope is with the program is that, again, it's that backstage tour. They get to see things that they wouldn't normally see. And I think we were all there, no matter what age we were. If we grew up in Troy, we say, I'm never coming back here. Troy is boring. I don't like Troy. And so our hope is that they see a different side of Troy. And yes, maybe they're going to go off to college or they're going to go to a trade school. But the hope is that at some point in time, they remember how great Troy is and they want to come back.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that the teen group does that the adult group doesn't do is that the Troy Foundation, I think, grants them $5,000.
I think it's $7,000 now. I think
$7,000.
Yeah.
Well, it's a significant amount, and what they do is those students decide how to divvy those dollars up between different projects that nonprofits bring to them. And can you add some insights about how that process goes?
Yeah, so it's a great opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about the Troy Foundation and to really understand what that distribution committee goes through when they look at grants. So Project Gift, what happens is nonprofits apply and at a grant process, just like they would any other time. And what happens is that then the teens have access to those grants prior to coming on site with us. And so they can look through them. And then they spend time with Troy Foundation staff and Melissa Klepps, and they walk through the grants and they discuss the grants and many times debate the grants and deciding how they're going to fund the different opportunities for the nonprofits. It's so cool to watch. And the teens, so many times we hear about young people and we hear the negative side of young people a lot of times, and they are very thoughtful. And to watch the process, it's always a highlight for me of the week.
I'm curious how civically aware these students are that come into the program. I believe these students, don't they have to be recommended by a teacher or something to that effect? And do they have a grasp of things that happen in their community?
To be honest, I think many times it's no different than the adults. So the process is very similar to get into the program. They have an application. They have 3 essays that they do. So one essay is about leadership. One is about the community and things that they would like to see fixed. And then one's also about the school system. And it's interesting to see how a lot of the topics that come up in the adult program or in their essays are very similar to what the teens are looking at as well. So very interesting. And then, like you said, they do have to have 2 recommendations. So a recommendation from a teacher and then someone outside of the school.
And I think it's important to realize that this is open really to any high schooler in the area. So, I mean, it's like you can go to Lehman, you can go to Troy Christian, you can go to Troy High School. This isn't just a Troy High School thing.
Yes, you
even had homeschool students in the past.
Homeschool students, yes. So you either have to live here or go to school here.
Okay.
So yeah.
One of the insightful things that you brought up is that the wish list that the kids have is very similar to the wish list that the adults have. Can you give us some insights on what some of those wish list items are?
Well, I will say the teens a lot of times focus a little bit more on fast food restaurants. So for
we need a Raising Cane's, right?
Raising Cane's. I mean, it used to be Chick-fil-A, and obviously we have a Chick-fil-A now. So Raising Cane's is top of the list right now for the teens. And for years, if you were talking about wish list for adults, it was always Olive Garden. And of course, now Pickwa's getting one. So we'll see if that gets off the list then. But, very interesting. And it's interesting. The teens want things to do. They think there's not a lot for teens to do. Many times, especially with this year's class, that came up with the adults as well. They were aware there wasn't as much for teens to do. But that's one of the things that has been a common theme, I think, the last 3 years for the adults, is that really in Troy, their perception was that there's not a lot to do unless it involves alcohol. And so they were looking for other things to do outside of going to a restaurant or a bar. So just kind of an interesting take, though.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because the city has worked hard on creating and expanding the Dora district, and I don't know, maybe this is an unfair statement, but it does seem like we typecast people under the age of 40 to think that everything that they want to do has to involve a glass of wine or a pint of beer, and I don't know if that's a good assumption to make, to be quite honest. But
yeah, I would agree with that. The feedback I'm getting is that they would like to do other things outside.
If they told you what those other things are, just out of curiosity.
Well, many of them are going to places like, south of here, there's the axe throwing, things like that. I would say, I think long shots and their opening of the bays where you can do the tracer golf. I think people are excited about that. So I think they're looking for experience-based. There may still be alcohol there, but an experience, something where they can go. And several groups have talked about like the places where you can just sit and play board games, like a board game cafe, things like that.
Hey, I'm down for a good game of Catan anytime. Absolutely. Why not? Have the wish list changed over the years that you've seen them, or have the themes that we wish that the community would try to achieve, have those themes changed at all?
Well, that's an interesting question. Last year was the 40th, so we did some digging. And of course, we also recently had an office move, so we were digging through boxes anyway last year. And I found the list, I think it was from 85. So not the first year, but from 1985. Okay. And some of the same things that we're talking about now were on that list.
Really?
Parking garage, traffic, the growth of our community and how we're growing too fast, and how can we, control the growth and still keep that small town atmosphere. And it's interesting, that is always on the adult list.
Are those same themes on the teen list too?
No, not as much. Not
Okay.
as much. It's funny, like more of the things to do and again, restaurants. Yeah. Bippy Bop, there would be the other one they want. They want Bippy Bop and Raising Cane's.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the alumni. I mean, it's like, I know it's hard, but it's like, are there still efforts to kind of bring the or how do the alumni of the program still stay in touch if they do? And what are some of the ways that those folks can get re-engaged back in Leadership Troy if it's been a minute since they've been part of the program?
Well, I would say that is an absolute opportunity for us. It's one of the things that alumni and staff have worked on and talked about. And it seems like maybe the timing hasn't always been right when we started things. We started a newsletter 2 years ago and then didn't have the capacity to keep that going. It's just been kind of hard. We're really, I love the opportunity to talk about this, because what we're looking for right now is some key alumni who would be interested in forming an advisory committee that would help to engage that alumni group. Because I think our alumni is like 700 strong. A lot of people have been through this program. So trying to figure out what that looks like. So one of the things that we've done is on the Leadership Troy page, if somebody wants to reconnect with us, there's a form that they can fill out to update their information. And that goes into our online directory. So that would, again, give them an opportunity. If we are sending things out, it would give them an opportunity once we start doing more of the matchmaking with the nonprofits so that we have their skill set. And then from there, any ideas that they're interested in, we could start with the alumni. We are currently talking to another professional development, business development organization currently about potentially launching another like advanced program for leadership, hoping that will come to fruition. I won't say who it is yet because I'm not sure if it's going to come together. And then we're also looking at doing quarterly, maybe behind the scenes tours. I have an alumni that's come to me several times and said, you need to do something because, Pella wasn't here when I went through. I'd love to do a tour of Pella and learn more about their company. Just things have changed. Some things have changed while some things have stayed the same. So looking at some different ways that we can re-engage. In August, we're actually doing an alumni night at the Dayton Dragons. So we're currently promoting that as well to reconnect with alumni too. But it's definitely an area of opportunity because I think it's an area that we've kind of missed the boat on. So anyone who's listening, if they're interested, let me know.
Well, we've got 2,400 subscribers, and I'm sure some of those have been alumni of the program. So, yeah. I'm curious of the 700 that have been through the program. Do most of them stick around town? Do they leave? Any wild guess that you could make on some of the demographics of those folks?
That would be a total guess. I mean, we definitely have people who've left. And I think that's the interesting thing about the program too. We also, people hear Leadership Troy and they think it's only for Troy residents. And we do have people throughout the county that are part of the program because they either do business in Troy or they engage in Troy. And so they want to know more. So we have had quite a few people from Piqua that have gone through. So we might be building leaders there as well, which is a cool thing. But how many stay around? That one's hard. There's another opportunity for me. I need to do some research.
Well, but you bring up a very good point, is that you see a lot of folks that are involved with either Leadership Troy or just the chamber more in generally that aren't necessarily Troy residents.
Yeah.
But they've kind of planted their flag in Troy. They've started a business here, or they've done other activities which are extremely civic minded. And then maybe that's a more broader question for the chamber. Do you guys see yourself more and more as almost, and boy, this is a loaded question, as more of a chamber with a bigger focus than just Troy? No, knowing that there's a Piqua chamber and a Tip City chamber, but I mean, you do kind of have to have more of a broader focus these days, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We call ourselves the Troy Chamber, but if you look at our official name, we're the Troy Area Chamber. And so that means that we represent people all over. So we have members all over the county. We have members from Montgomery County. We have members from out of state. And it's truly because people see what's going on in our community. I like to say that people, once they come and see Troy, they fall in love with us and never want to leave. We have really good things going on here, whether it's the business community or just, just the action of citizens and the hospitality that we provide here. And so people really want to be engaged and part of that.
With the folks that have gone through the program, what kind of leadership roles can they expect to end up being a part of? Is it more than just being on a nonprofit board, or have you seen them do other more interesting things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we have some people that are looking at this as a professional development program, and so they're looking to use this within their own business and advance within the ranks there. Definitely with nonprofits. Like I said, it was designed that you would become a board member. And, I run a nonprofit and I know that that's not for everybody. It's just really not. So some people really want to be involved and just come and volunteer one day and be done. And other people want to figure out how they can be philanthropic and write checks. And then I've seen more and more people who are becoming interested in becoming an elected official. And I think that's a really cool part of this program as well. And that's a component that I'm hoping to add, is just a small portion to tell people how to get connected if they are interested in running for office, whether that's school board or city council or mayor, whatever that might be, how to really engage in your community. Well, and with that, we also talk about, especially on city government day, we do talk about how you can apply to be on some of those boards and commissions, which can be a stair step into becoming an elected official as well.
Yeah, and it is interesting because it's like this summer, the Board of Elections is starting their candidate academy. And from what I understand, the attendance has been very good at that. So, I mean, you're getting more people involved at a grassroots level to make change in the community. And I think that's a testament to programs like Leadership Troy and organizations like the Troy Chamber of Commerce that are trying to, create momentum for positive change in the community. With that, I know the Chamber takes on some limited advocacy roles, either local, either state, either national. Can you describe what some of those advocacy roles look like and how folks can get involved with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the premise behind what a Chamber of Commerce is advocating for their members and for local business. So we believe really strongly that businesses should have an opportunity if they have concerns, on a local level. I'd say the thing we hear about the most is signs, and that it can be hard to get a sign approved. And if somebody's moving into this community as a business and they're expanding here, not all communities operate the same. And so we want to advocate and make sure that they have the information. And if we're hearing from businesses that they just don't really feel like we're friendly to businesses, we want to make sure that our elected officials know that. So we will have conversations with elected officials or with city staff. We're also part of the Activate Troy Partnership, which is a number of different nonprofits that are working for the greater good of the community. So we'll advocate for change there too, or advocate for what we think, a park should look like, or Prouty Plaza, getting involved in things like that from a community development side of things. And then at the state and national level, and really at the local level as well, we're really looking at regulations. Businesses do not like to be regulated. They really don't. They don't like regulations or added regulations, and they don't like to pay additional taxes because they really want to be able to make the money and give back to the community. And so we will get involved in different areas there on a national level. Key things we're talking about right now would be like childcare, the same things that a lot of us are talking about, childcare and housing, and what can we be doing differently? Because those are areas that everybody's going to have to get involved in. It's not something that, just one person's going to go, oh, here's the solution. We all have to come together and figure out how can we, give incentives, lower taxes, whatever that might be, to be able to solve some of those problems as well.
And you're right. I mean, the constant drumbeat for at least the last 8 years has been childcare, housing, and transportation. And it does feel like there's some momentum that's building on making some improvements in those areas. The problem is, it feels like when we discovered those problems, or we as a community decided that those were the problems we needed to tackle, they were problems that were like 10 to 15 years old.
Yes. Yeah, it was like, oh, yeah. Absolutely. I would add to, your listeners may not be aware, one of the other things that we really advocated for was the new schools.
Yeah, you played a really big leadership role in that.
We did. We had seen the campaigns fail in the past, and we realized that the business community wasn't represented around the table, around the committee for passing a levy. And so we got involved and not only put, sweat equity into it, we also funded part of the campaign so that we had some better marketing and communication and just really push that. Again, some people might say, but that's added taxes, and it is added taxes. But if you do not have a strong school system, you're not going to retain or attract businesses in this community or people that live here. So really important that we did that as well.
Well, and let me ask you the question, what does keep businesses here, or what attracts businesses to the community that you've seen? And we're not talking about very granular data, but just, the anecdotal things that you've seen and talked about.
Really, again, once you get to know us, you never want to leave, so absolutely on, the high level, we all know people are looking for, they want to know that, about the utilities and things like that. If you're talking about manufacturing and large businesses, but overall, people want to know that it's a friendly, engaged, warm community that has strong schools, engagement from the community, good involvement from their elected officials, making good decisions. They talked a lot about when Pella came here, and when they came and saw our downtown, it reminded them of Pella, Iowa, and the small community. And so that was one of the things that they really loved about our community as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that isn't talked enough, at least in my opinion, is the wonderful job the county did with the renovations of the courthouse plaza. I mean, it's like,
yeah, what a gem in our downtown.
Yeah, I mean, not only do we have the public square, which is kind of an iconic place, we created another iconic place right along with it, and
absolutely,
yeah, that is really cool. So I'm curious, where do you see the future of the Troy Leadership Program or Leadership Troy program going? What do you think it'll look like 5 or 10 years down the road?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Well, I think it'll still be going strong. I mean, knowing that we have a wait list and people are interested, I think it'll still be going strong. There has been some discussion about we have changed and we are, digitally connected and our attention spans are not quite the same. So maybe there's a need to change the program a little bit so it's not so much of the all-day lectures and in and outs and so much talking and doing something a little different there. And then 5 to 10 years from now, I really want to see a program where our alumni are engaged. And I would really love for the pilot program that we started during the America's Best Communities that's sitting on a shelf, which was Get on the Bus, which was all about a really 2-day program. So taking the program and doing it in 2 days just to give a touch of the program. And it was designed really for the president of a hospital or the plant manager or someone who's high level at their company and really cannot commit to the 1 day a month. It would be 2 days just to give an overview of our community when they come into the community or start their role. And I think there's a real need for that in our community as well. We would call it Onboard Troy. And so people would come on the bus and talk a little bit, and we would jump off and go do tours and make sure that people have connections when they start their new roles in the community.
That sounds really interesting. So would that be like a once a year thing, or would it be basically tailored to the new executive as they move into town?
I think originally we saw it once a year, but I think it really depends on how much turnover we have in those roles. Another thing that could happen is it could transition and be more of a new resident program. So that new residents could also get connected. So we've had realtors that were interested in maybe starting that as a new resident kind of thing, where people could come and meet other new residents and meet people in the community, and then, learn about our parks and learn about Hobart Arena and where they can have access to different things and network along the way.
Well, I think that brings up a very important point, is that, I think we traditionally think of chambers of commerce as just for the business community, but I think you're beginning to see, we're beginning to see more involvement of just average residents I mean, is there anything that the chamber is doing or will do or could do that could just involve residents that aren't part of the business community? And what does that look like?
Again, another opportunity, definitely. So currently we do offer like relocation packets for new people moving into the community. And so we like to think of ourselves as that hospitality arm there too. Because again, people know the name Chamber of Commerce. So in many communities, that's where people will go first. And I think that's a great opportunity now that we have this new office and we're on the first floor, so we're more visible. But there are chambers out there that do programs like what I just talked about, whether it's a Get on the Bus program to get people around, or I know of a chamber that twice a month does just, a welcome kind of night for networking for new people in the community, or for people who just want to get connected in the community. So I definitely think there's some opportunities there. Because again, at the base of what we do, yes, it's all about business. We want our businesses to be strong, but our businesses have all these employees. So we want to make sure that we're also taking care of the people that live and work here as well.
So we're kind of covering what the future of the chamber looks like 5 to 10 years from now. Is there anything else that you think the chamber will do, could do in the future that makes it continues to be a strong community partner?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say one of the things that we have started is a community calendar.
Okay, that's
Not only to our nonprofits who sometimes struggle to get their information out if they're doing fundraisers or events.
Yeah.
But, again, back to America's Best Community, which was however many years ago, one of the things that we identified is that people just don't know where to go to get information. And, I talked about the leadership class and people say there's nothing to do here. Well, because they don't know where to go. And so that's one of the things we feel like we could really be that resource hub for the community, whether that's for businesses to be a resource hub or for people who live here, and to be able to, people can go to our website and find things, or they can come to our website and we push them back to the appropriate organization or people in the community to help them.
Yeah, and one of the things you do see is you see a lot of organic activities, especially on social media, where every community has a number of community groups.
Yes. Yes, those community groups. I know another nonprofit leader in this community. We would love to start the Positive Posse, because there's a lot of really good things that go on in this community. And a lot of times people don't know that, because whether it's the community, whether our government's not telling those stories, whether the profits aren't telling those stories, like we live in a really great community. And, so maybe that's the future of the chamber will be the Positive Posse and keep telling the stories of our community.
And it could be the future of this podcast, where we talk to local leaders about some of the positive things that they're saying. So, put on your hat, rub the magic 8 ball. What does Troy look like 5, 10, 20 years from now? And more importantly, are you still in the community 5, 10, 20 years from now? If you had your druthers.
5 years from now, I will still be in the community.
Okay.
Long term, I don't know. I'm getting to be, I'm thinking about retirement. And while I love Troy,
you're way too young to retire.
Well, if you're saying 20 years, I am not going to be in this role in 20 years. I am not. I'm not going to be that person that. No. I think I will still be here. I love this community. I tell people, my husband and I tried to go away. We go away. We moved to Kettering for a year and a half and absolutely hated it. And, we love to travel and go places, but this is home. This is home. And Troy has so many wonderful things. What will the community look like? I think the community is going to have more engaged citizens, because I just think that is the trajectory that we're going on. We're headed that direction. And I think I think we will continue to have that small town feel as we continue to grow and evolve. I mean, that's been one of the things that sets us apart, is that we have always been able to grow and evolve. From an economic development standpoint, every time we've had someone leave, we have someone coming right in behind them, and we've been proactive. And I think this community will continue to do that.
Yeah, I think you're right there. One of the things that people don't realize about economic development is they think like it's just something that we've done in the last 40 years, and it's not. It's
not.
I mean, we recruited a Hobart to come here back in the 1890s, I think it was. So
yeah,
economic development has always been part of the Troy story that is often not told.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, well, I mean, you're seeing it with the teens. Are those teens do they want to stick around? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I know, but one of the things that's really unique about Troy, and it's the similar kind of demographic all within communities of Western Ohio. The people that are born here tend to stick around here.
We do. We do.
It's not like we're a Henderson, Nevada, where everybody's an implant. So it's like, do you still think that kind of demographic trend is going to keep on, or is life getting to the point where people are just going to leave us in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, I think it will continue. I think you're seeing more and more people that want that small town experience. And so I think young people leave. I do. I think they go off to college. We hear a lot of people going to Columbus. And there's a time where Columbus is great and there's lots of things to do and it's fun. But I think you see a lot of people choose to come back here and raise their family. And I recently talked to a nonprofit leader whose son just recently came back and took a role. The Klutz family. Nathan is coming back to Troy because he loves Troy and wants to be involved here. And I think that there's some others in that same area of youth that are young people that are coming back because they love Troy, want to get engaged. It's interesting because we're looking at that group plus our young leaders that we have to maybe kind of take over that teen leadership program and let them kind of mold that program that they actually graduated from. And now they can take it and run with it and be the next generation to tell people how great Troy is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool because it's like now you've got the first generation of leadership Troy folks that are coming back into the community, and that's really amazing, and it's like, yeah, everybody wants to go to. I mean, Central Ohio is like the only really growing part of the state of Ohio, and when those kids either go to Ohio State or another number of the colleges over there in Central Ohio, we'd much rather them to move Troy than to go to like Upper Arlington or Dublin or wherever you are over there. Well, Kathi, we've gone for about 53 minutes. Is there anything else we need to talk about for the good of the order?
I don't think so. I would just tell people that if they do have an interest, whether it's in the chamber, Leadership Troy, or the teen program, they could go to our website, troyohiochamber.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will put a plug in for a program that we're part of every Thursday morning at 8 a.m.
Yes.
It is one of the most unique leadership development programs that I've ever seen. It's called Coffee with Champions, and people who know me think that's hilarious because I've never drank coffee before in my whole life. But
neither.
Yeah, but we have a wonderful core group of probably 24 to 30 people that show up every Thursday, and we just talk about what it's like to live our lives and to be part of the organizations that we run, either for profit or nonprofit. And one of the cool things is that we've really gelled like a family, and it's a real nice family atmosphere. Those are Thursday mornings at 8, and we are at We Love Birthday Parties, which is there at the corner of Elm and Atlantic Street. there in Troy. And, I will say I sometimes miss the second floor of the building we were at there on the public square, but the new facility is very nice. It's Shelley Calvert's We Love Birthday Parties. We're so grateful that they opened that up to us, and it's a very welcoming and very inviting atmosphere. Well, Kathi, thank you so much for your time today. I certainly appreciate it. I will see you Thursday morning.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.